Hey guys, Katie here. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is part of my Let's Talk About It series, and we are doing the second video of Disney fan theories. So a lot of the fan theories that I found, there's a lot of Beauty and the Beast ones. So we're going to do Beauty and the Beast first, and then we'll add in a couple more, and then I'll do the rest in part 3. The first one is Disney's Beauty and the Beast. The fairy didn't curse the beast, she granted Belle's wish. So I don't have a lot of solid evidence for this because we never really see Belle as a child. But based on her opening song, she probably sings it often and has since she was a child, wishing for adventure, love, and escape. Fairies and fae in general are tricky creatures. They don't think like we do, like how genies tend to twist wishes, monkey's paw style. Think about it. Beast is 21 in the events of Beauty and the Beast, which means he was an 11-year-old boy when he was cursed. Not just an 11-year-old boy, a royal. Of course he was freaked out when some random old hag in a storm came banging on the castle door. He wasn't being rude to turn her away, he was scared. For her to bang on any door he could open, she'd have to circumvent the guards, the servants, and all of the castle staff and residents. Think about it. Beast's castle is huge and full of waitstaff. He was bound to be well guarded as well. How the hell did an old circumvent all of that and bang on his door? We know how, but he didn't. So it makes perfectly logical sense to turn her away. Hence, the curse. She never intended to let Beast go. He was always going to be cursed. She was just looking for any small reason. Because this curse was the only way to give Belle what she wanted. She was an odd commoner, someone who would never have a prince fall in love with her. Moreover, her family were poor, and she was being raised by a single father. 0 room, money for a proper adventure, and no chance to rise out if this provincial life, except maybe by marrying Gaston and offering him later to take the money. Oh. So the fairy cursed Beast to grant Belle's wish. She made Beast and his servants into what they were, not only to keep them from leaving, but to keep any potential suitors away from Beast until Belle was old enough. The servants couldn't leave no matter how dire the situation got, and she even gave Beast an arbitrary time limit to make him desperate in the end. After that, the events of the story take place. Belle is elevated to princess status. She saves the day, becoming a hero. She gets her adventure and escapes her provincial life. Gains wealth and offs Gaston, and gets to travel to the great wide somewhere, a long-forgotten castle full of magic and mystery. And then love, like Jeannie said, and Fairy Godmother implied, wishes can't force someone to love you, so the fairy had to make Beast desperate enough to consider Belle, then set her up as a kind savior to slowly win Beast over. It helps further that she gave every servant in the castle plenty of incentive to help along the bidding relationship. I feel like this does make sense. The only question I would have when it comes to this theory would be, why was this fairy so interested in Belle? That would be my only thing. My only question. Also, a question I have about Beauty and the Beast in general. Where are Beast's parents? So, you tell me an 11-year-old lived in a castle all by himself? Or are his parents the furniture that he broke in his room? Like, did he kill his parents? This next Beauty and the Beast theory. Gaston was the last classic Disney prince, and his purpose is to pass the torch into the new era of Disney. I don't know, even just reading the title of this makes me very wary because Gaston wasn't a prince. Like, he wasn't a prince at all. So firstly, he fits the bill of the prince. Handsome, independently wealthy. He can afford 5 dozen eggs a day, which works out to 1,800 eggs a month in a pre-factory farming economy. To keep up with his addiction, he's getting eggs imported, or he just has a lot of chickens. Everyone loves him for no discernible reason. When he gets dismissed, rejected, and publicly humiliated, everyone in the tavern joins in to cheer him up. He only cares about the princess because she's pretty. Prior princesses displayed no value to their princes other than their looks, yet they're on board for marriage after a night. But he's the bad guy. What went wrong? Disney started empowering girls. Oh no. Gaston genuinely cared about Belle in a town where, without the chance of meeting Prince Adam, she'd otherwise die a spinster. But it wasn't enough. He had to like her for the right reasons. He portrayed gender roles as something vile and demeaning. Yes, while he went out and earned their living as some sort of ecosystem-destroying hunter, Belle would tend the homestead, and when he came back from days or weeks in the wilderness, he'd come back and relax. Oh, the sarcastic horror, she's better off on the breaking wheel. Oh, and when he was fantasizing about their objectively ideal life together in the context of the old Disney paradigm, he mentions how she debased herself by rubbing his feet. I don't know about everyone else, but occasional foot rubs and back rubs are just standard fare in relationships. They feel nice, and generally you want the person you love to feel nice. And what's crazy is, if you look at the unfolding events from his perspective, he's actually the hero. Belle's dad bursts in rambling about how a monster kidnapped his love and locked her in a dungeon in a castle they should be able to see from town but can't for some reason. So he gets him committed, as you would do if your girlfriend's father burst into the bar and started raving to you about it. No, probably not, and she wasn't even his girlfriend. He finds out the beast is real and has locked Belle in there for who knows how long, and he rallies the town to help him protect everyone. And in true role reversal, the monster slays the handsome prince so the princess can start making her own choices, saves her man, and makes her happy ending happen rather than having someone else give it to her. Beauty and the Beast came out the year after The Little Mermaid, the last classic Disney damsel movie, and the year before Aladdin. Jasmine is the second princess in a dynasty of women who get shit done. 1991 was a turning point where female protagonists went from useless plot devices at the mercy of the world around them to actual women who got shit done. Gaston's death was symbolic of the death of the handsome prince saves useless girl era of Disney. What the freaking hey, man? No. No. I can't even find the words to describe how ridiculous that theory is. He wasn't a prince. He didn't save the day. The whole thing about the foot rubs, I'm sorry, but, I mean, I don't know. Something about this theory makes me feel like this person lives in a place and is in a relationship where it's got the 1950s gender roles. That's how I feel. Yeah, no. No, because the Beast was a handsome prince. So, I don't know. I'm just speechless. That is like the most out there theory ever. Gaston did not rally the town to make them safe. He rallied because he wanted Belle to himself, and the Beast was going to take that from him. I mean, Belle was never going to be his anyway. Maybe I'm processing it wrong, but I don't like it. It makes me feel icky even reading that. Okay, in Disney's Beauty and the Beast, the prince is really the one saving Belle from her beastly nature. So if we look at this story and assume that the moral is that you shouldn't judge people by appearances, then it makes sense that you should also not judge Belle as a kind person simply because she is attractive. The movie lets us know at the beginning that Belle is a bit of a snob that believes she is better than everyone else in her town. In the song Provincial Life, she sings about how it may be nice for the townsfolk to live in their routines, but she's too good to be a part of it. As part of that song, it is revealed that a good number of the residents of that town have issue with her because of it, mostly other single women and potential suitors. It's like she is giving a pitying acceptance, but not really much respect for them. Later, after her father is held prisoner, she offers to exchange his freedom for hers. This may seem like a selfish act, but at this point, the prison she is at is a palace, and her father was extremely well taken care of while he was there. He was admonished for trespassing, but was still well fed and given a warm place to rest. Belle is basically seeing this as a way to upgrade to the life she feels she deserves. The Beast accepts the trade, and this is where Belle's true nature really starts to come through. The Beast offers her one of his best rooms in the palace, fancy clothes for her to wear, invites her to eat dinner with him, and she treats him like trash because he isn't attractive. She is given an allowance to explore and have access to every room in the palace except the Beast's private chamber, and she immediately disregards his feelings of privacy and heads straight to that room. Her disregard of others and selfish nature has her disrupt everything in that room, including things that may cause the Beast's death. When he gets mad at her for it, she passes the blame to him for being aggressive and her own wrongdoing as simple curiosity. Soon as she breaks her promise to be a voluntary prisoner and runs away, once again putting her own life and the Beast's life in danger from snowstorms and wolves because he got mad at her for being disrespectful and ungrateful. Toward the end of the movie, Belle has an internal transformation to match her beauty on the outside, finally truly caring for someone other than herself, as the Beast has an external transformation to match the beauty he had inside. The only part of this that I don't agree with is the part that said about trading places with her father. This may seem like a selfish act, but at this point, the prison she is at is a palace, and her father was extremely well taken care of. Belle is basically seeing this as a way to upgrade to the life she feels she deserves. I don't really think that fits. And I don't think that Belle necessarily thought that she was better than everyone else. I think she just thought that she was different. And the life that the people in the town were living just wasn't the life she wanted. And I don't think that's selfish, and I don't think that's, like, snobby to want something more than everyone around you. It doesn't mean that you think you're better than everyone else. It just means that you are different, and different's not bad. Okay, the next one is Disney's Beauty and the Beast theory. The prince wasn't cursed. To clarify, I don't mean that he got turned into a beast some other way. That was the sorceress's doing. But she didn't do it as a punishment to curse him. It was her gift to him. In the start of the film, we see the young prince sad because of his father's death. I honestly forgot about that. Followed by him partying with other noblemen wearing the same makeup and wig as the adults in the room. When did that happen? Did that happen in the live action? Because I literally watched Beauty and the Beast the other day and I don't remember that part. That might have happened in the live action. I don't think the prince lived a very happy life at this point. He was forced by society and probably both of his parents to make himself artificially beautiful, definitely giving him a really bad opinion of himself and his appearance. When the sorceress turned him into a beast, it was to free him, to allow him to be as ugly as he wanted to be, to allow him to love himself as he was, not how society wanted him to be. His staff were turned into silverware and furniture so he wouldn't ever feel judged. They were as different as he was. Only Belle sees the beauty in his raggedy animal face. The transformation that happens is due to the spell fulfilling its purpose. To ensure the prince loves himself as he is, he must He must first love himself with the ugliest of appearances, and he must find someone who loves him as ugly too. The fact he becomes human and thus beautiful again is to reward the rare judgmental side of Belle in the ideals of the townspeople. They would certainly not approve of her marrying a beast. The movie doesn't teach the audience through the townspeople changing their minds about what defines beauty, because that would be too easy and make it too easy to dismiss the whole story because it takes place in 18th century France. And this utterly complicated lesson is why I find this movie so incredibly beautiful. I sort of agree with this. I agree with this in a way. But I feel like yeah, I feel like he had to learn to love himself. But I don't know if it's like the ugly. I think it was like the bad parts of himself that he had to learn to love, and how to learn to love someone else other than himself. But besides that, I do agree. Okay, Beauty and the Beast. Why did the servant stay after the prince was cursed? Loyalty or need? I've been seriously overthinking this today since my daughter watched the movie with me and laughed repeatedly at my sing-along prowess. Prowess? I don't know. But then she started asking questions that I really couldn't answer. One stood out to me. Why didn't the servants just leave? To me, it seemed like a simple answer, because they loved the young prince and wanted to help them, even though it was his mistake which led to the witch's curse. But that doesn't really fit. This whole idea fell apart when I realized the West Wing, Belle is specifically told is off limits, is filled with the bodies of the servants he took his wrath out on when the curse was still new. Seriously, watch the scene again and look at all the broken furniture. Those were people at one point. Consider, if you will, if the storyline gives us a hint to the prince's age when he was changed, he was 10 or 11 years old. Most children that age are just starting to enter puberty and their emotions are all over the place. This young prince would be full of ego and arrogance due to not only being a prince, and quite possibly an only child as his family is never discussed, but a hormonal prepubescent as well. The shock and trauma alone of being cursed and turned into an animal would be one thing, but there would be no servants to help him learn to cope with his new body either. He would need to learn to walk again, speak around a mouthful of foreign teeth and fangs, as well as handle things without dropping or breaking him because claws and paws. Clothing would need to be made to accommodate his new form, so he would be running around naked, well, furry, but for quite a while. Why? The servants would be going through the same difficulties, and in some cases, for heaven's sakes, look at Mrs. Potts, they would take far longer to be able to cope and adapt. The servants of the West Wing would be his first victims, since they were the ones previously the closest to the young prince. They would have known him best before the change, and any hint of fear or sadness from them would have cut the deepest. Imagine trying to feed himself for the first time in the privacy of his wing, only to realize he can't handle any of the silver anymore. This is obviously during the dinner scene with Belle, at which point he's either given up trying or just doesn't care any longer. The frustration and feeling of helplessness, especially in the face of the servants standing there trying to encourage him, would, and most likely did, erupt in a massive fit of rage. Things, former people, would be thrown and damaged with claw and fist. Through the years, the downstairs servants learned to avoid the young prince when he was in these rages, but in the end, the West Wing servants were all destroyed, killed one by one. The only object to remain intact was, of course, the rose. Then I pondered, well, they could leave, couldn't they? The scene with Chip stowing away in Belle's bag when she went home ended that line of thought quickly. Even off the castle grounds, Chip was still a teacup. Leaving the castle grounds didn't change anything. Even Chip knew there was no danger of him turning into an actual little boy, so this had to be something the servants had tried in the past. It also brings up a startling idea. The number of suicides among the servants and staffs, which had to have occurred throughout the years. Those that lost hope with every passing year, realizing the curse wasn't negated by leaving the castle grounds, Those that had family on the outside who realized they would never see their loved ones again. Damn depressing to say the least. So, in essence, the servants, including Cogsworth, Lumiere, and Mrs. Potts, didn't necessarily stay because they were trying to help the young prince. They had a vested and very personal interest in making sure some young lady came to break the curse. It was quite literally the only way they could ever leave the castle as well. I agree with that. I agree that, one, they couldn't leave the castle and just walk around as a talking candlestick. That wouldn't go over very well with the townspeople. Imagine someone showing up at your door as a talking clock and being like, "Hi, honey, I'm home." You'd be like, "What the frick?" So, yeah, of course they had a personal, not vendetta, but personal interest in the Beast falling in love, and that's why they were so willing to, talk Belle into, giving him a chance, and talk him into, giving Belle a chance. And that's because, of course, they were invested, that's the word. They were invested because it affected them as well. So, yeah, I agree with this. The last Beauty and the Beast theory we have was Belle the first to try to break the spell? Okay, hear me out. There's every chance that the villagers not only know about the castle and the inhabitants, but there may be a long-standing tradition of silence about the whole thing that breaks after Belle and her father moved to town and upset the balance with Maurice taking the wrong road. Consider working on the curse lasts for 21 years theory, though it also works if it's based on the 21st birthday theory, but not as well. This village grew because of the castle and the royals living there. The royals and their servants would have required a massive amount of goods and food being sent to the castle on a regular basis, not to mention if the castle was entertaining guests of any sort, whether other royals or nobility. After the prince's debacle with the witch, no other royals or nobility would have had anything to do with the remaining family. Now, the story doesn't touch on the prince's immediate family, but you must concede there may have been other royal family members. While not necessarily siblings, I've always considered the possibility of a king or queen who advocated for him among the other royals and nobles looking for a young lady of noble birth who could break the spell and save the prince. Not a bad gig if you can stomach a spoiled rich kid in a beast form freaking out and breaking things that used to be people. I would hope, operative word being hope, that the advocate would check in with the optimistically happy couple and realize there was no chance with this young lady, or end up finding her in the dungeons and quickly spiriting her away to avoid her death and her family retaliating. After repeated failures, naturally the advocate would start looking to the villagers for help, since the nobles would tell this poor guy to beat feet. Now, from the villagers' point of view, the loss of income from the castle and its constant stream of guests would eventually bankrupt whatever business you owned. Families would begin to starve if something weren't done to fix the prince. And there was a distinct upside to helping. If your daughter were the one to break the spell, you would not only be the prince's savior, but the village's as well. Plus, your daughter would end up being the princess and quite possibly the queen, though that's debatable, and your whole family would end up noble by marriage. However, after several years of the townsfolk offering up their daughters to try, and none of them succeeding or simply disappearing altogether, there would be serious dissension and anger towards the advocate, and he would simply be refused. His supply of willing young maidens would dry up, and Beast would find himself alone in the castle with his servants slowly going crazy. The villagers would age and start to forget about the problem lurking close by in the castle, since it would have happened when they were young. Younger generations, those who were only babies or the unborn at the time, wouldn't know about the old story, since the elders would have issued the silence warning to those who lived through the prince's first few years under the curse. Enter Belle and Maurice. Every morning just the same, since the morning that we came to this provincial town. These two don't know anything about the town's history or the castle in the woods harboring a dark secret the town elders don't talk about. They are outsiders, and the villagers already think the two of them are strange because of Maurice's odd inventions and Belle's overconsumption of books. They aren't going to bring up the past and have these two weirdos start poking into things better left alone. Then all hell breaks loose, and Gaston, the erstwhile young hunter and hero wannabe, believes it is his job to protect the village from something that has effectively terrorized the villagers for 20 years. Little do the villagers know their savior is a bookworm wandering through town and reading to the local sheep. This theory doesn't really make sense because the beast was cursed at 11 years old and it had been 10 years. So he's obviously 21. There wouldn't have been 21 years of the curse. It just doesn't fit very well with the information that we have already. So I don't support that theory. Yeah, I can't support that theory. So what do you guys think of these Beauty and the Beast fan theories? Do you agree with them? Do you have your own fan theories for Beauty and the Beast? Let me know in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.